"Hey, can I have a ride home?" The words echoed in Matt's mind, looping as he stared at the girl standing in front of him. She couldn't have been older than 20. Her long blonde hair cascaded over a bright red dress, its innocent, almost playful fabric swaying as if caught in an invisible breeze. But her eyes, they were empty. Not in the usual way someone looked tired or sad, these were void. It was late. Too late for any reasonable person to be out. The kind of night when the roads were empty, save for the distant hum of trucks speeding down the highway, the kind of night when every shadow seemed too deep and the wind carried whispers that weren't there. Matt swallowed hard. He was on his way back from a friend's house, driving the back roads to avoid the usual highway traffic, when he saw her walking along the side of the road, thumb out in that classic hitchhiker gesture. Against his better judgment, he pulled over. Now, standing before him, the girl gave him a strange smile. Not a friendly one, it was tight, forced, like she was mimicking an expression she'd forgotten how to make. Her pale face, illuminated by his car's headlights, made her seem even more ghostly, almost translucent. Matt hesitated. Where do you need to go?" Her smile widened, but her eyes remained flat. "Just home." He glanced around. There were no houses in sight, just endless fields and distant forests. "Where's home?" "Not far." A chill crawled down Matt's spine. He didn't know why, but the way she said those words, "not far," made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. It was as if something inside him was screaming to leave, to get back in the car and drive away. But her stare held him in place, like a predator watching prey, knowing it had already won. Before he could decide, she stepped closer, her movements slow, deliberate. "Can I have a ride home?" Matt nodded, his mind going numb. It was as if her voice had wrapped around his thoughts, smothering his logic. He opened the passenger door for her, and she slid in gracefully, the red fabric of her dress flowing like blood as it pooled around her legs. He got back into the car, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. As soon as he started the engine, the air inside the vehicle seemed to thicken, the temperature dropping so rapidly his breath fogged the windshield. He glanced at her out of the corner of his eye, but she was just staring straight ahead, her smile gone, replaced with a cold, expressionless face. "Where am I taking you?" he asked, his voice shaky. "Just keep driving." The road stretched on forever. He could no longer tell where he was, or how far he had driven. The familiar landmarks he had passed so many times seemed to vanish, replaced by a dark, endless expanse of nothingness. The fields looked wrong, the trees twisted into unnatural shapes that seemed to loom closer with each passing mile. "Is this the right way?" Matt asked, his throat dry. She didn't respond. The silence grew unbearable, thick and heavy like a suffocating blanket. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw her hand move, slowly, methodically. She was tracing something in the air with her finger, a pattern he couldn't quite make out, but it made his stomach turn. "What are you doing?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. She turned her head to him, and for the first time, he noticed something horrific. Her eyes were black. Not just dark or shadowed, but completely black, like two empty pits where her eyes should have been. "I'm just preparing." Matt's heart pounded in his chest. Preparing for what?" She smiled again, wider this time, revealing sharp, unnaturally pointed teeth. "For when we get home." He slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt in the middle of the road. Panic surged through him as he fumbled with the door handle, trying to escape. But it wouldn't budge. No matter how hard he pulled, the door stayed locked, as if something or someone was holding it shut. The girl laughed, a low, guttural sound that sent shivers down his spine. You shouldn't have stopped. Suddenly, the car's engine sputtered and died. The headlights flickered before plunging them into complete darkness. Matt's pulse raced, his breathing shallow and rapid. He could hear her shifting in her seat, her breath unnervingly calm compared to his panic. "Let me out, leave me alone," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "Please, let me out." She leaned closer, her cold breath chilling his skin. "You're already home." Before he could react, she lunged at him, her face morphing into something grotesque, a twisted mask of malice and hunger. Her hands were no longer delicate, but gnarled, clawed appendages that gripped his throat with unnatural strength. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The world around him blurred as his vision darkened, his mind spiraling into a terrifying abyss. The last thing he heard before everything went black was her whisper in his ear, soft and sinister. "Thank you for the ride." The next morning, Matt's car was found abandoned on the side of the road, engine cold, doors locked from the inside. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no broken glass. Just an empty car and a single clue. On the passenger seat lay a long strand of blonde hair, stained red. And on the windshield, written in fog, was a message, "I'm home." No one ever saw Matt again. But every so often, late at night, drivers on that same road report seeing a girl in a red dress, hitchhiking, her thumb raised, and her eyes, black as the night.